Commander Vex Throne stands before 200 alien cadets, his third eye scanning the lecture hall. Humans are the most unpredictable species in the known galaxy, he declares, unaware that one of his students is actually human. She sits disguised among them, taking notes on how her own species is being assessed as a threat. The irony is palpable. The subject of the lecture is observing the observers. The Galactic Security Academy operates on a single tactical doctrine that has secured peace across 12 systems. Identify your opponent's weaknesses before they identify yours. This principle governs every aspect of their training program, which for 3 standard decades has produced the most effective threat assessment specialists in known space. Their graduates now command security details on diplomatic vessels, analyze enemy communications, and oversee planetary defense grids. The Academy accepts only the top 2% of applicants from member worlds, each selected for pattern recognition abilities that exceed their species norms. Their current curriculum represents a significant departure from established protocols. For the first time, cadets must complete a mandatory module on human behavioral analysis, a subject many faculty members still consider theoretical rather than practical. The decision came directly from the Interstellar Security Council after 3 separate first contact incidents ended with human negotiators achieving unexpected concessions. Commander Vex Throne received his assignment through encrypted channels, his selection based on extensive combat experience rather than academic credentials. His service record from the Cassilian border wars included 7 successful counterinsurgency operations against genetically enhanced rebels. The commander's physiological advantages made him particularly suited for this assignment. His third eye provides stereoscopic vision, capable of detecting micro-expressions across species lines, identifying muscle twitches that correspond with deception across 47 known biologics. He can spot a Talarian's ear flutter indicating stress or a Graxian's scale discoloration, signaling aggression from 30 meters away. This biological edge combined with his combat experience made him the obvious choice to evaluate a species that defied conventional analysis. The 200 cadets, representing his current class, come from worlds that have established formal relations with Earth within the last 5 standard years. Their home governments provided unprecedented access to classified human psychological profiles, behavioral studies, and tactical after-action reports. Each student received briefing packets containing data points that Earth governments would consider violations of interspecies intelligence agreements. The material included neurological scans of humans under duress, biochemical analysis of stress responses, and even cultural studies of Earth entertainment media. This lecture marks a definitive shift in galactic diplomatic strategy from observational study to active threat mitigation. Where previous approaches emphasized understanding human culture, the new directive focuses on predicting and neutralizing human tactical advantages. The Academy's entire program rests on fragmented data, recovered from encounters, commercial interactions, and occasionally intercepted communications. Intelligence gaps get filled with statistical projections and worst-case scenario modeling. The stage contains all necessary elements for either breakthrough understanding or catastrophic miscalculation. 200 of the galaxy's brightest tactical minds prepare to study a species they've only encountered through data streams. One instructor brings both unparalleled expertise and personal bias to the subject matter, and one student possesses actual lived experience that contradicts every assumption in the lesson plan. Neither the teacher nor his students realize how thoroughly their expectations will get reconfigured before the session concludes. Barry. Corythian's third eye processes more than visual data. It interprets neurological signals. Vex Throne's ocular organ detects micro-expressions that standard vision would miss, reading minuscule muscle contractions that correspond to deception, fear, or aggression across 90% of known species. This biological advantage secured his 7 successful counterinsurgency operations during the Cassilian border wars. He cleared rebel strongholds on 3 separate moons using tactical approaches that became standard Academy doctrine. His reputation for flawless threat assessment made him the obvious choice for this assignment. His record contains one notable exception. The Zeta Eridani campaign against human mercenaries ended with tactical withdrawal after 68 hours of engagement. The human unit employed strategies that defied all predictive modeling, using seemingly irrational maneuvers that consistently neutralized technological advantages. They abandoned defensible positions to launch frontal assaults, sacrificed strategic assets for minor gains, and communicated using coded cultural references that translation algorithms couldn't process. The engagement left Throne with a permanently twitching ocular nerve when processing unexpected stimuli. That single failure became his professional focus. He consumed every available human psychological study, physiological analysis, and combat report. He memorized human reaction times across various stress conditions, could recite adrenaline response curves, and understood how human sensory perception differs from most oxygen-breathing species. His lectures avoid emotional language or speculative theories, presenting only verified data points and tactical observations. Students receive no credit for creative interpretation, only accurate threat assessment based on documented patterns. Cadets quickly learn that Throne's grading standards reflect battlefield consequences rather than academic achievement. He fails students who misprioritize threats or confuse probability with certainty. His evaluation forms contain only binary assessments, adequate preparedness or inadequate performance. He personally petitioned the Galactic Council to reclassify Earth as a maximum threat environment after analyzing merchant vessel incident reports. His recommendation cited 17 separate cases where human traders gained tactical advantages through apparent social interactions. This background creates an instructional paradox. Throne possesses more practical experience with human tactical behavior than any instructor in the Academy's history. His analytical capabilities exceed most specialized equipment for detecting deception or hostile intent. Yet his singular failure against human opponents colors every analysis with predetermined conclusions. He approaches human behavior as a solvable equation rather than an adaptive system. The instructor's expertise becomes both the program's strongest foundation and its most critical vulnerability. His knowledge comes filtered through combat trauma and institutional bias, creating blind spots where human behavior deviates from threat models. He teaches what humans have done rather than what they might do, preparing cadets for past conflicts instead of future encounters. The classroom contains the galaxy's foremost expert on human tactical patterns who simultaneously cannot perceive beyond his own operational parameters. This contradiction remains unnoticed by staff and students alike. The commander's reputation precedes him, his tactical victories outweighing that single documented withdrawal. His physiological advantage suggests objectivity, where personal experience creates prejudice. The Academy gains an instructor with unparalleled credentials while accepting his unexamined limitations as part of the package. Standard planetary classification systems measure atmospheric stability, gravitational constants, and radiation levels. They assign categories based on compatibility with most carbon-based life forms. Earth's initial classification placed it comfortably within habitable parameters, Class 7, suitable for colonization with minimal environmental suits. Then the full biological survey data reached the classification committee. The committee initially rejected the findings as sensor errors or elaborate hoaxes. The report documented over 1,200 species possessing venom or toxins lethal to 98% of known oxygen-breathing biologics. This included small arthropods that could disable nervous systems with a single sting, marine creatures that injected paralytic compounds through translucent spines, and even plant life that released neurotoxins when touched. The death count wasn't theoretical. 3 survey team members required medical evacuation despite full protective gear. Human development occurred alongside hyper-evolved predators that could outrun, outclimb, or ambush them. Large carnivores possessed bite forces capable of crushing armored vehicles. Atmospheric phenomena included rotating columns of air that could lift structures into the sky, and electrical storms that ignited forests. The planet's tectonic plates shifted constantly, creating sudden fissures and releasing pressures that demolished landscapes. Yet humans built population centers directly in the paths of these recurring events. Their educational systems reflected this environment. Human children received basic toxin identification and first response training before learning advanced mathematics. They practiced emergency shelter construction and evacuation procedures as routine educational modules. Adult humans voluntarily consumed mild neurotoxins like caffeine and ethanol for recreational purposes, treating substances that would hospitalize other species as social lubricants. Microscopic analysis revealed constant biological warfare at the cellular level. Earth's microbial ecosystem showed pathogens evolving countermeasures to medical treatments within single generations. Viruses incorporated genetic material from multiple species, creating hybrid illnesses that jumped biological kingdoms. Standard antiseptics proved ineffective against certain bacterial strains that developed resistance through horizontal gene transfer. Orbital scans detected persistent low-level radiation emanating from 17 natural nuclear fission reactors operating deep underground. These geological formations had been sustaining chain reactions for millions of years, bathing entire ecosystems in background radiation that would cause cellular degradation in most species. Human populations living near these zones showed elevated cancer rates, but no decreased fertility or genetic collapse. This environment produced a species that viewed constant danger as normal. Humans found moderate risk situations boring rather than threatening. They engaged in recreational activities that involved falling from great heights, diving into unexplored caverns, or confronting deadly animals without defensive equipment. Their entertainment media featured simulated catastrophes and survival scenarios as relaxation. The cadets began understanding why humans showed indifference to threats that terrified other species. A leaking reactor seal might cause panic on a Vexian vessel, but barely register on a human station. Environmental hazards that would trigger full evacuation procedures might merely prompt humans to don protective equipment and continue working. Their threshold for acceptable risk encompassed scenarios other species classified as suicide missions. This psychological framework made human behavior consistently unpredictable through normal threat assessment models. They didn't react to danger because their baseline environmental normal included perpetual hazard. The Death World classification explained their physiological resilience, pain tolerance, and casual approach to survival statistics. It did nothing to make them less terrifying to encounter. Most sentient species break eye contact to indicate deference or diffuse tension. This universal behavior crosses species barriers because it reduces the chance of misinterpreted aggression. Avrexian lowers its primary visual cluster when addressing superiors. A Talarian shifts its antennae away during disagreements. Even predatory species like the Karnak use deliberate looking-away gestures to signal peaceful intentions. These patterns form the foundation of interspecies diplomatic protocols. Human ocular behavior follows entirely different social rules. Their sustained direct gaze indicates either intense curiosity or imminent violence with no visible differentiation between states. Neural scans recovered from medical databases show human pupil dilation patterns differ fundamentally when viewing threats versus allies. Their pupils contract slightly when assessing danger and expand when recognizing friendly faces. This subtle distinction remains invisible without specialized equipment. They maintain visual contact during high-stress situations that would trigger avoidance responses in other species. Humans stare down charging animals, maintain eye contact during physical confrontations, and watch disasters unfold without blinking. This behavior stems from predator ancestry that needed to track dangerous prey through complex environments. Their evolutionary history required constant visual monitoring of threats that could attack from multiple vectors. Advanced species consistently misinterpret this behavior as challenging authority or showing disrespect. A human diplomat maintaining eye contact with a Karnak chieftain might be demonstrating engagement by their standards. The Karnak interprets this as a dominance challenge requiring physical response. 17 first contact incidents involved violence, triggered by this misunderstanding before researchers identified the pattern. The lecture includes holographic examples of human stare patterns in negotiation scenarios. Cadets watched security footage from trade negotiations where humans maintained unbroken eye contact for 47 minutes straight. The alien negotiators show increasing distress indicators, including elevated heart rates and pheromone spikes, while the human representatives remain physiologically calm. Post-incident interviews revealed the humans believed they were demonstrating respect and attention. Additional footage shows human security personnel using deliberate staring as crowd control measures. They focus on potential threats in agitated groups. often causing individuals to abandon aggressive postures without physical intervention. This technique works against other humans but triggers panic responses in most alien species, who interpret it as predatory targeting. To humans, not looking at someone registers as more suspicious than looking too long. Their cultural programming associates averted eyes with deception, shame, or hostile intentions. A human who refuses to meet another's gaze during conversation often gets perceived as untrustworthy or hiding information. This directly contradicts diplomatic protocols where sustained eye contact suggests aggression. This fundamental difference in social signaling has caused 38 documented diplomatic incidents within the last standard year. Human delegates get removed from negotiation tables for staring too intently. Alien diplomats receive medical treatment for stress-induced conditions after prolonged exposure to human ocular behavior. The galactic community continues, developing technological solutions including modified visors and cultural training modules. The Academy's training program now includes stare recognition software that analyzes human eye movements during simulated encounters. Cadets learn to distinguish between different types of human gazes using pattern recognition algorithms. The system still generates false positives at an 18% rate due to cultural variations among human populations. Commander Throne emphasizes that no other species uses ocular behavior with such paradoxical meanings. The same physical action indicates either extreme threat or deep connection depending on context. Humans consider obvious. This represents one of the most challenging aspects of human interaction for non-human species to master. Baring teeth means imminent attack across 98% of galactic species. This universal threat display spans biological categories from reptilian carnivores to silicon-based life forms. A Karnak reveals fangs before striking. A Talarian exposes dental plates when provoked. Even herbivorous species use tooth display as final warnings before defensive actions. This consistency makes interspecies communication protocols straightforward regarding oral gestures. Humans possess 17 distinct facial expressions involving teeth exposure. Only 3 correlate with actual aggression or hostile intent. Their most common tooth-bearing expression, the social smile, indicates pleasure, agreement, or amusement. The disconnect between appearance and meaning causes systematic miscommunication during first contact scenarios. Alien diplomats have triggered security responses upon encountering smiling human greeting parties. Their customer service smile shows more dental exposure than their combat readiness expression. Retail workers and hospitality staff display broad, tooth-revealing smiles as professional requirements. Military personnel and security forces maintain closed-mouth neutral expressions during tactical operations. The intensity of dental display inversely correlates with actual threat level in most professional contexts. Neural imaging reveals human brains process friendly and threatening smiles through different pathways. Genuine smiles trigger activity in the limbic system and motor cortex. Deceptive or aggressive smiles activate prefrontal regions associated with social manipulation. These differences remain undetectable without advanced neuroscanning equipment. Surface appearance provides no reliable indicators of underlying intent. Humans use smile intensity to convey social hierarchy without verbal communication. Subordinates flash quick closed-mouth smiles to superiors. Equals exchange full-tooth smiles during mutual recognition. Superiors bestow slight smiles as rewards for adequate performance. These nuanced interactions occur within fractions of seconds, creating communication layers that translation software misses entirely. The lecture includes security footage from the Cygnus Prime negotiations. Human diplomats maintained pleasant smiles throughout the 16-hour session. Their expression patterns showed no changes during breaks or private consultations. They finally declared economic sanctions while wearing the same facial expressions they'd used during casual conversation. The alien delegation misinterpreted this consistency as potential negotiation flexibility until the sanctions took immediate effect. Cadets practice identifying smile types using advanced expression analysis software. The system breaks human facial movements into 47 discrete muscle actions. It measures dental exposure percentages, lip curvature angles, and temporal patterns. Trainees learn to distinguish between a genuine smile lasting 0.8 seconds versus a polite smile lasting exactly 1.2 seconds. The software still misclassifies sarcastic smirks as genuine amusement 30% of the time. Human cultural development weaponized social signaling in ways no other species anticipated. They developed complex nonverbal communication systems that convey precise information while appearing innocuous. A slight smile might indicate approval, mockery, or deadly intent depending on context, invisible to outsiders. Their facial expressions became sophisticated tools for social manipulation and tactical deception. This variability makes human intentions notoriously difficult to read during formal negotiations. Their pleasant expressions might indicate genuine goodwill or imminent betrayal. Their neutral faces could signal boredom or intense concentration. Even their aggressive expressions sometimes indicate playful teasing rather than actual hostility. The only consistent pattern remains their inconsistency across situations and cultures. Commander Throne emphasizes that human smiles represent their most dangerous communication tool. The expression that signals friendliness in one context becomes a threat indicator in another. This ambiguity forces other species to rely on technological analysis rather than instinctive reactions. The Academy's training prioritizes smile, recognition above weapon identification for human interaction, protocols. Standard galactic disguise technology relies on optical manipulation and holographic projection. These systems bend light around the wearer or project false images that scanners can easily detect. They work effectively for brief encounters or surveillance operations, where close inspection remains unlikely. Most security forces train to identify the telltale shimmer of active camouflage or the energy signature of sophisticated holograms. These limitations make conventional disguise technology inadequate for deep cover operations requiring extended contact with the target. Species, human intelligence agencies, developed a more fundamental approach to biological concealment. Their nanite-based systems rewrite cellular structure at the molecular level, rather than merely altering visual appearance. Billions of microscopic machines enter the bloodstream through injected capsules, distributing themselves throughout the host's biological systems. They begin immediate reconstruction of cellular membranes, protein structures, and metabolic pathways. The technology temporarily alters metabolic processes to match the target species' energy consumption patterns. It reproduces alien DNA markers well enough to fool standard medical scanners and genetic testing equipment. The system creates accurate hormonal profiles, replicates unique biochemical signatures, and even mimics cellular regeneration rates specific to the impersonated species. These changes occur gradually over 12 hours to prevent physiological shock to the host organism. Human consciousness remains fully intact throughout the transformation process. The nanites suppress involuntary species-specific behaviors through neural regulation without affecting higher cognitive functions. They monitor brain activity for patterns that would reveal human thought processes, automatically interrupting telltale neurological sequences. The host maintains complete situational awareness while the system manages involuntary reactions that might betray their origin. These systems require constant energy input from the host's biochemical processes. They utilize ATP production from cellular respiration, creating a 12% increase in metabolic demand during active operation. Hosts require additional caloric intake and frequent hydration to maintain system stability. The nanites recycle waste products efficiently, but cannot compensate for sustained nutrient deficiency. Stress or fatigue can cause temporary system fluctuations that reveal the underlying biology. Elevated adrenaline levels may overwhelm the nanite's regulatory capacity, causing momentary reversion to human physiological responses. Extreme emotional states can trigger microexpressions that contradict the assumed identity. The systems include failsafes that initiate emergency protocols when detection risk exceeds acceptable parameters. This technology explains how a human operative could sit undetected in a room containing 200 threat assessment specialists. The nanites would replicate Turan pheromone signatures, mimic appropriate antenna movements, and suppress human microexpressions. They would maintain the illusion through constant physiological monitoring and adjustment, creating a perfect biological mask rather than a visual deception. The system represents a significant advancement in espionage capability over conventional disguise technology. Where holograms and light bending fail under close inspection, biological alteration withstands medical examination and prolonged observation. It allows operatives to pass routine security scans, biological sampling, and even diagnostic medical procedures without detection. The technology has rendered most standard, Security screening protocols obsolete when deployed against unsuspecting targets. Human intelligence services have likely embedded operatives within multiple galactic governments using this technology. The only reliable detection method involves specialized nanite scanners that most security forces lack access to. Even these systems produce false positives when scanning species with unusual biological characteristics or cybernetic implants. The galactic security community remains largely unaware of this capability's existence and operational parameters. Commander, Throne's lecture contains no reference to this technology. Because galactic intelligence agencies have no confirmed data about its existence, their threat assessments assume human operatives use the same disguise methods as other species. This informational gap creates a critical vulnerability in their security preparations. They train cadets to detect technological deception while remaining blind to biological transformation. Earth Intelligence Division operations follow a foundational principle that separates observation from contamination. Their operatives train for years to watch without changing the system they study, to ensure intelligence remains uncompromised by observer effects. Agent Vasquez's mission to the Galactic Security Academy followed the most extreme interpretation of this rule. Her objective involved recording alien threat assessment protocols without influencing their development or triggering awareness of human surveillance capabilities. Her cover identity as a Turan exchange student required complete behavioral integration before deployment. She spent 6 months mastering Turan mannerisms, speech patterns, and social protocols. The preparation included neural conditioning to suppress human emotional responses during stress and specialized training to control involuntary physiological reactions. Her briefing materials contained psychological preparation protocols for hearing her species characterized as dangerous or monstrous. Operatives learned to process derogatory assessments as valuable data rather than personal insults. The mission's success depended on absolute adherence to her cover identity's behavioral parameters. Any deviation from expected Turan conduct would trigger security protocols and compromise intelligence gathering. She carried emergency extraction devices disguised as standard academic equipment, including a data tablet with concealed transmitter and a nutrient synthesizer containing emergency medical nanites. These devices would activate only if her cover became compromised beyond recovery. Her presence in the lecture hall created inherent contamination of the data she sought to collect. Every alien reaction to human threat profiles occurred in the presence of an actual human, creating an unconscious influence on their responses. The Academy's psychological assessments of human behavior were being observed by the subject of their study, though neither instructor nor students recognized this fundamental conflict. The operation represented the highest risk intelligence gathering attempt in Earth's extraterrestrial operations history. Previous surveillance relied on remote monitoring or brief encounters with limited interaction. This mission placed an operative deep within hostile territory for extended duration. Without backup or rapid extraction options, success would provide unprecedented insight into how galactic security forces perceive and prepare for human interactions. Failure meant exposure of advanced human intelligence capabilities and potential diplomatic incidents. The nanite technology itself represented a classified asset that would compromise multiple operations if discovered. Agent Vasquez understood that detection would validate every negative assessment the Academy taught about human deception capabilities. The psychological strain of maintaining cover while listening to distorted threat assessments required constant mental discipline. She processed Commander Throne's lectures through multiple filters, recording factual inaccuracies, noting cultural biases, and analyzing tactical assumptions while maintaining the placid demeanor of a Turan student. Her neutral expression concealed the constant analysis occurring beneath the surface. Her mission parameters explicitly forbade any action that might influence the curriculum or correct misinformation. She observed inaccurate human psychological profiles without reaction, recorded flawed tactical assessments without correction, and documented prejudiced cultural interpretations without objection. The intelligence value came from seeing their unfiltered perceptions, not from creating more accurate understanding. This operation would either provide the most valuable human intelligence gathered about alien security protocols or become a catastrophic failure, demonstrating human duplicity. The margin between these outcomes rested entirely on Agent Vasquez's ability to remain undetected while surrounded by experts trained specifically to identify threats. Every moment in the lecture hall increased both the potential reward and the exponential risk of discovery. The operation balanced on a knife's edge where the slightest misstep would confirm every alien suspicion about human capabilities and intentions. Turans maintain their reputation as model academics through physiological and behavioral efficiency. Their calm demeanor stems from a metabolism that requires minimal energy expenditure for basic functions. A standard Turan operates on 800 calories of nutrient paste daily, absorbing nutrients through specialized membranes in their oral cavity. This metabolic efficiency allows extended study sessions without frequent breaks for sustenance. Their biological systems recycle waste products with near-perfect efficiency, minimizing both input requirements and output waste. Human metabolism demands triple the caloric intake just for baseline operations. Agent Vasquez's body consumes energy at a rate that would arouse immediate suspicion if observed. She schedules supplemental feeding sessions between classes, using a modified nutrient synthesizer that produces high-calorie paste disguised as standard Turan nourishment. Each extra feeding creates detection risk requiring precise timing and location selection. The Academy's surveillance systems monitor all food synthesis orders for anomalous patterns. Her cover identity depends on perfect replication of Turan social behaviors. They avoid direct confrontation through subtle social signaling rather than verbal disagreement. Academic settings involve passive information absorption, without challenging instructors or questioning established knowledge. Their body language centers on antenna movements that convey agreement, confusion, or attention through precise angles and vibrations. These gestures replace the facial expressions most species use for communication. The nanite systems face their greatest challenge replicating Turan pheromone signatures. Each Turan emits a unique biochemical profile that changes with emotional states and physical conditions. The nanites must analyze surrounding Turans constantly to match their output to local norms. They adjust hormone levels, secretory rates, and even skin pH to maintain consistent chemical camouflage. This requires continuous processing of environmental data and instantaneous biological adjustments. Emma's human instincts constantly conflict with her cover parameters. Turan students remain seated during entire lecture sessions without shifting positions. Their breathing patterns show minimal variation even during alarming presentations. Human sensory responses to surprising information, increased heart rate, pupil dilation, micro-expressions, must be suppressed through conscious effort and nanite intervention. Each physiological response requires active management rather than automatic control. The Academy's environmental sensors detect biochemical anomalies as standard security protocol. Air sampling units test for unusual pheromone concentrations or foreign biological agents. Emergency systems would quarantine the lecture hall if they detected human biochemical signatures. The nanites must counter these sensors by altering Emma's output to match expected Turan readings, while compensating for atmospheric circulation patterns. Psychological discipline proves equally challenging. Turan thought patterns emphasize acceptance and integration of information rather than critical analysis. Their learning methods focus on memorization and repetition instead of questioning underlying assumptions. Emma must suppress her human curiosity and analytical training to avoid behavioral deviations. Her thought processes must mirror Turan cognitive patterns despite fundamentally different neural architecture. Maintaining this deception requires constant vigilance across multiple biological and psychological systems. The nanites manage physiological aspects while Emma concentrates on behavioral control. Any lapse in either system risks exposure through microscopic tells. A single anomalous pheromone spike, an unconscious human mannerism, or an inappropriate question could unravel the entire operation. The margin for error approaches zero in an environment designed specifically to detect threats. This operational reality creates sustained psychological pressure that the nanites struggle to mitigate. Stress hormones trigger cascading biological responses that require increasing energy to suppress. Each successful hour of deception increases the metabolic cost and system strain. The technology operates at increasingly narrow safety margins as the mission continues, balancing detection risk against system stability in real time. Galactic tactical computers process 50,000 variables per second across 17 different predictive models. Their processing power exceeds the combined cognitive capacity of the entire cadet corps, by several orders of magnitude. These systems analyze historical data, real-time sensor readings, and psychological profiles to generate combat predictions with 94% accuracy against most species. Their success rate against human opponents consistently falls below 60%, despite identical input data and processing parameters. This statistical anomaly represents the single largest gap in galactic threat assessment capabilities. Humans consistently make decisions that violate statistical probability and tactical logic. Their actions prioritize emotional factors over calculated advantage in nearly 30% of documented engagements. They abandon defensible positions to rescue wounded comrades, sacrifice strategic objectives to protect civilian populations, and initiate conflicts against numerically superior forces for moral reasons. These choices defy optimization algorithms designed to maximize victory probability and minimize losses. Their intuitive decision-making often proves more effective than advanced predictive modeling. Neural studies recovered from Earth databases show human brains process environmental cues at unconscious levels that escape standard sensor arrays. They detect micro-expressions in opponents, recognize patterns in apparently random events, and identify anomalies in seemingly normal situations. This processing occurs through parallel neural networks that evolved for survival in complex environments. Humans excel at identifying when situations don't feel right despite normal parameters. They detect deception through subtle vocal patterns, recognize ambushes through animal behavior changes, and anticipate attacks through environmental inconsistencies. This capability stems from millennia of evolving alongside predators and hostile environments that required constant threat assessment. Their brains developed pattern matching systems that function below conscious awareness. The lecture includes battle footage from the Sigma Draconis engagement, where human intuition overcame superior technology. A single human commander ordered an evacuation 37 seconds before sensors detected incoming missiles. The decision saved 8 ships and 1,400 personnel, despite contradicting all tactical recommendations. Post-analysis revealed the commander noticed abnormal communication patterns between enemy vessels that computers classified as random variation. This unpredictability makes humans impossible to model accurately through conventional means. Their decision trees contain too many emotional variables and intuitive leaps for algorithmic prediction. Galactic tacticians view this as a dangerous flaw in human psychology, rather than an adaptive advantage. They consider emotions as liabilities in combat situations and intuition as unreliable compared to data-driven analysis. The disconnect stems from fundamental differences in cognitive evolution. Most advanced species developed logic-based decision systems that prioritize survival through calculation. Humans evolved alongside predators that required split-second intuitive judgments for survival. Their cognitive processes balance conscious analysis with unconscious pattern recognition in ways that alien species find difficult to comprehend or predict. Commander Throne emphasizes that this represents the core challenge in human threat assessment. Their actions follow internal logic that external observers cannot access or model. Predictive systems fail because they cannot account for the emotional and intuitive factors that drive human decision-making. This limitation forces galactic security forces to prepare for multiple, contradictory scenarios whenever humans are involved. The cadets learn that human unpredictability isn't random but follows different operational parameters. Their actions make complete sense within their own psychological framework, while appearing irrational to outside observers. This understanding represents the first step toward effective human threat assessment. Recognizing that their behavior follows consistent patterns that simply differ from galactic norms. The lesson concludes with a stark warning about over-reliance on predictive technology against human opponents. Computers provide valuable data but cannot replace understanding of human psychology and decision-making processes. The most effective defense against human tactics involves flexible response protocols rather than predetermined reaction patterns. This approach acknowledges the fundamental limitation of technology when facing opponents who consistently defy logical prediction. Most species form strategic alliances based on calculated mutual benefit and measurable advantage. Trade agreements specify resource exchanges. Military pacts outline defensive obligations. These arrangements follow logical parameters with clearly defined terms and exit clauses. Relationships remain transactional rather than emotional, with value determined through objective metrics rather than subjective attachment. Humans create bonds that defy this rational framework. They form emotional connections to people, equipment, and even abstract concepts with irrational intensity. Their military personnel develop loyalty to damaged weapon systems, naming rifles and treating them with ceremonial respect. Starship crews personalize their stations with photographs and memorabilia, despite regulations prohibiting non-essential items. These attachments persist long after practical utility has expired. These bonds consistently override self-preservation instincts in critical situations. Humans will risk certain death to protect complete strangers who share no biological or cultural connection. Documented incidents show soldiers exposing themselves to enemy fire to recover fallen comrades from opposing units. Medical personnel abandon secure positions to treat wounded combatants from both sides of conflicts. This behavior occurs too frequently to classify as statistical anomaly. Their military units display loyalty patterns that contradict standard cohesion models. Human soldiers remain with crippled vessels rather than transferring to functional ships. They defend abandoned outposts beyond tactical value due to emotional attachment to location. Prisoners of war refuse to provide information even when offered freedom and rewards, citing loyalty to captured comrades they may never see again. This bonding extends beyond their own species to include other life forms and even artificial intelligences. Humans adopt alien creatures as companions despite potential biological hazards. They treat navigation AIs as crew members rather than equipment, holding birthday celebrations for operating systems and consulting them on tactical decisions. Damaged robots receive medical attention and emotional comfort during repair procedures. The lecture shows security footage from the Kelvin Prime evacuation where human Marines protected alien children during hostile actions. The humans formed protective circles around juvenile evacuees despite taking fire from multiple directions. They prioritized child safety over tactical positioning, resulting in preventable casualties but successful evacuation of all non-combatants. Post-action interviews revealed the humans considered this standard procedure rather than exceptional behavior. This emotional drive makes human actions both noble and terrifyingly unpredictable. They might surrender strategic advantages to protect civilian populations or initiate hopeless attacks to rescue captured enemies. Their value system prioritizes emotional connections over logical outcomes in ways that defy tactical forecasting. Advanced prediction models cannot account for soldiers who value friendship over victory. No other species demonstrates such consistent willingness to die for abstract principles. Humans sacrifice themselves for concepts like freedom, honor, or loyalty without measurable rewards. They defend territory for historical significance rather than strategic value. They protect artifacts with cultural meaning but no practical utility. This pattern persists across all human civilizations despite varying belief systems and social structures. Commander Throne concludes that human pack bonding represents their greatest tactical advantage and most critical vulnerability. It creates unbreakable unit cohesion, but also predictable patterns of behavior. Enemies can manipulate humans by threatening their bonded companions or cherished ideals. This emotional framework makes them both formidable opponents and susceptible to psychological warfare. The lesson emphasizes that understanding human bonding patterns provides greater tactical insight than studying their weapons technology or strategic doctrine. Their actions become predictable once you identify what they value beyond logical calculation. This understanding requires shifting from pure tactical analysis to psychological assessment of emotional connections. The cadets learn that defeating humans involves attacking their hearts rather than their armies. Turan academic culture prizes silent absorption of information above active inquiry. Their educational traditions emphasize respectful reception of knowledge from authority figures without challenge or interruption. Students demonstrate engagement through attentive postures and precise note-taking, rather than verbal participation. This cultural framework ensures harmonious learning environments, where instruction flows without disruptive questioning. The system produces exceptional scholars but limited critical thinkers. Emma's human psychology rebels against this passive learning model. Her neural pathways demand active engagement with information through questioning and analysis. She experiences physical discomfort when encountering incomplete data or contradictory assertions. This drive overrides her training and operational security protocols multiple times during the lecture. Her hand lifts almost involuntarily when Commander Throne presents oversimplified human behavioral models. Her inquiries focus specifically on tactical applications rather than theoretical concepts. She asks about response times in urban environments, resource allocation during extended conflicts, and decision-making under sensory deprivation. These questions reveal practical understanding of combat psychology that exceeds academic knowledge. She requests field examples that demonstrate human adaptability in unpredictable situations rather than laboratory studies under controlled conditions. Commander Throne notes the unusual questioning pattern with professional interest. His third eye tracks her antenna movements while his primary eyes maintain classroom scan. He attributes her exceptional engagement to brilliant scholarship rather than lived experience. The Academy's records show occasional prodigies who demonstrate advanced comprehension through insightful questioning. He files her behavior under that category despite minor physiological anomalies. Other students begin mirroring her questioning approach during practical exercises. Their cultural programming normally suppresses competitive inquiry, but her example creates permission for deviation. The lecture hall develops unusual energy as multiple students seek clarification on human tactical patterns. This shift creates protective cover for Emma's continued questioning, while simultaneously increasing attention on her behavior. The near-exposure incidents accumulate throughout the session. She almost asks about human neural response times during the micro-expression module. Catching herself mid-breath, she barely suppresses a follow-up question about adrenal suppression techniques during stress response analysis. Each avoided question requires conscious effort that strains her nanite systems. The physiological cost of suppression creates cascading effects across her biological functions. Her human need for understanding battles her cover identity's cultural constraints. The conflict manifests in micro-tremors that the nanites must constantly correct. She experiences cognitive dissonance between wanting to correct misinformation and needing to maintain observation. This internal struggle represents the core challenge of deep cover operations against psychologically astute opponents. The behavioral deviation creates a dangerous pattern that would normally trigger security protocols. Only Commander Throne's preconceptions about Turan capabilities prevent proper investigation. His belief in cultural stereotypes overrides his professional training in anomaly detection. This cognitive bias protects her cover while simultaneously demonstrating the limitations of even expert threat assessment. The situation demonstrates how cultural assumptions create security vulnerabilities. The Academy's understanding of Turan behavior becomes a weapon against itself. Emma exploits their expectations to operate in plain sight while gathering intelligence on their assessment methods. Her success depends on their inability to conceive of a human possessing both the capability and audacity to infiltrate their most secure training program. This tension between observed behavior and expected norms pushes the nanite systems to their operational limits. Each question requires recalculating pheromone outputs, adjusting metabolic rates, and suppressing human neurological patterns. The technology manages the physical manifestations while Emma concentrates on behavioral control. The partnership operates at maximum capacity throughout the lecture session. Turan physiological stress responses follow predictable and easily measurable patterns. Their antenna vibration frequency increases by precisely 2.3 Hz per stress level, while their skin exhibits quantifiable pallor shifts across the visible spectrum. Medical scanners detect these changes automatically, triggering alerts when readings exceed established safety parameters. The Academy's monitoring systems track these biomarkers throughout lectures, creating real-time stress maps of the classroom. This data helps instructors adjust pacing and content delivery based on student reactions. Human stress responses involve complex biochemical cascades that vary significantly between individuals and situations. Adrenaline spikes trigger fight-or-flight reactions within 0.2 seconds of perceived threat. Cortisol levels rise steadily during prolonged stress, affecting cognitive function and physiological stability. These responses evolved for survival in dangerous environments, but create detection risks in controlled settings. The human body prepares for physical action even during purely intellectual stress. Emma's nanites struggle to suppress these biological reactions during intense questioning sequences. The systems must counteract adrenaline releases that would cause Turan antennae to vibrate uncontrollably. They regulate cortisol production to prevent skin coloration changes that would signal distress. Each physiological intervention requires energy that strains the nanite network's capacity. The systems operate at 80% efficiency during calm periods, but drop to 45% during high-stress moments. Her pupils dilate differently under psychological pressure than a Turan's light-sensitive organs would. Human pupils expand during stress to increase visual acuity, while Turan ocular systems contract to protect delicate internal structures. The nanites must constantly adjust her pupil size to match expected Turan responses, despite opposite biological impulses. This requires precise calibration that falters during sudden stress spikes. She must consciously control breathing patterns that would be automatic for her species. Human stress breathing involves shallow, rapid inhalations that optimize oxygen intake for physical action. Turans maintain steady respiratory rates even during extreme stress as part of their calm demeanor. Emma focuses on maintaining Turan breathing rhythms while her body demands human stress responses. This mental effort further strains her cognitive resources during critical moments. The Academy's sensors detect anomalous neurological activity during threat simulation exercises. Emma's brain shows activation patterns inconsistent with Turan neural architecture. Her prefrontal cortex exhibits heightened activity during tactical assessments, where Turans would rely on instinctive responses. The sensors flag these anomalies as potential equipment malfunctions rather than biological inconsistencies. The system's programming assumes technological error before considering species misidentification. Commander Throne dismisses the anomalous readings as sensor ghosting from the holographic projectors. His experience with training systems includes frequent false positives from overlapping energy signatures. He orders calibration checks between exercises without considering the patterns might indicate something other than technical issues. His focus remains on the exercise outcomes rather than the biological data streams. These micro-responses create data inconsistencies throughout the lecture that would normally trigger security protocols. The systems record 17 separate anomalies during the 2-hour session. Each incident gets logged as minor technical glitches rather than potential security breaches. The Academy's security AI lacks programming to consider biological disguise as a viable threat vector. Only the commander's preconceptions about Turan capabilities prevent pattern recognition. His belief in their physiological consistency overrides the anomalous data. He attributes any unusual responses to individual variation rather than species difference. This cognitive bias creates a security vulnerability that the human operative exploits through precise behavioral control. The situation demonstrates how advanced technology becomes useless when operators dismiss anomalous data. The sensors function perfectly, but the interpretation fails due to ingrained assumptions. The Academy's entire security framework depends on personnel recognizing threats they've been trained to identify. It cannot account for threats that defy their conceptual understanding of possibility. This gap between technological capability and human perception creates the perfect environment for infiltration. Emma operates within the blind spot created by their own confidence in their systems. The very equipment designed to detect threats becomes ineffective due to operator assumptions about what constitutes a threat. The lesson becomes about the limitations of technology when faced with unexpected variables. Commander Throne activates the holographic display showing the Zagreus asteroid base schematic. This incident demonstrates typical human operational patterns when they perceive moral infringement, he states. The case involves 43 juvenile life forms from 7 different species taken hostage by Caltharian mercenaries. The captors demanded military-grade navigation data from 3 separate governments, assuming interspecies diplomatic protocols would prevent coordinated rescue attempts. Standard galactic procedure required negotiation through established channels with approval from all relevant planetary authorities. The human response violated 14 separate engagement protocols within the first hour. They ignored communication channels, bypassed diplomatic oversight, and entered sovereign territory without notification. Security footage shows a single operative accessing environmental control systems never designed as entry points. The individual used maintenance tunnels rated for robotic inspection only, navigating spaces with radiation levels that would incapacitate most biologics. They disabled motion sensors by exploiting calibration cycles rather than jamming signals. The operative neutralized security systems using methods that remain incompletely understood. They injected customized viruses into the base's network through physical ports considered obsolete. The malware disrupted targeting systems and door controls without triggering intrusion alerts. Mercenary communications degraded gradually, making them believe they experienced technical difficulties rather than targeted sabotage. The timing of each system failure suggested inside knowledge of patrol routes and shift changes. All 43 children were recovered unharmed from separate holding areas. The operative moved through the base without encountering resistance, disabling guards with non-lethal methods that left no chemical traces. Medical scans showed temporary neural disruption without permanent damage. The mercenaries awoke to find their prisoners missing, and systems restored to normal operation. The only evidence of intervention was a handwritten note placed on the command console. The note's phrasing became standard study material for interspecies psychologists across 12 systems. It read, "These children now fall under human protection. Further attempts will be met with permanent solutions." The handwriting analysis revealed unusual characteristics: consistent pressure indicating calm demeanor, flawless grammar suggesting education, and a slight tremor that might indicate fatigue or injury. The paper contained trace elements from Earth's biome that matched no known military or commercial product. Human governments denied official involvement through all diplomatic channels. They attributed the operation to rogue elements or private security contractors. The coordinated denials included fabricated evidence of the operative's supposed death in unrelated incidents. Intelligence agencies noted the precision of the disinformation campaign suggested official coordination rather than independent action. The incident created diplomatic tensions that required 17 separate negotiations to resolve. This operation demonstrated that humans will ignore established protocols when they perceive moral imperatives. Their definition of protection extends beyond species boundaries or political affiliations. They intervened on behalf of non-human children against non-human captors without apparent strategic benefit. The action provided no tactical advantage and created significant diplomatic complications for human interests. The rescue showed humans prioritize ethical considerations over practical consequences. They risked interstellar incidents to protect beings with no connection to their species or interests. This behavior pattern contradicts standard models of species self-interest that govern galactic relations. It suggests humans operate on value systems that remain poorly understood by other civilizations. Commander, Throne concludes that this case represents both the promise and peril of human involvement in galactic affairs. Their moral consistency makes them reliable allies but unpredictable actors. They might defend strangers with absolute commitment or abandon allies over ethical disagreements. This operational philosophy defies conventional threat assessment models that assume rational self-interest as the primary motivator. Commander Throne activates the holographic training simulation without warning. The lecture hall dissolves into a bustling border crossing scene with detailed environmental projections. Alien travelers move through security checkpoints while inspection teams scan cargo manifests. The exercise tests threat assessment skills using realistic scenarios based on actual interception reports. Cadets must identify potential infiltrators from behavioral cues rather than technological scanning. Emma faces the immediate challenge of participating while suppressing human instincts. She must process visual information through Turan response patterns rather than her natural threat assessment framework. The simulation presents a standard border checkpoint with 12 suspected infiltrators hidden among legitimate travelers. Each subject displays subtle behavioral indicators that trained observers should recognize. The cadets begin analyzing the crowd using principles from the lecture. They note posture anomalies, micro-expressions, and movement patterns that suggest deception. Most focus on obvious tells like nervous glancing or excessive sweating. Their training emphasizes visible stress indicators that correlate with guilt across multiple species. They miss the more nuanced human-specific behaviors that don't align with standard models. Emma's performance shows abnormal accuracy in human behavior prediction. She identifies 3 infiltrators that other students consistently miss. Her selections appear counterintuitive based on established threat assessment protocols. The individuals show calm demeanor, normal physiological readings, and appropriate documentation. They don't exhibit the stress responses that typically indicate deception. She recognizes subtle human-specific tells the simulation designers included as advanced challenges. One subject maintains overly perfect posture when relaxed humans would slouch slightly. Another shows micro-expressions of amusement rather than stress when passing security. A third demonstrates weapon familiarity through how they adjust their equipment harness. These indicators require understanding human behavior beyond textbook knowledge. Commander Throne notes her exceptional performance with growing professional curiosity. His third eye tracks her selection process while his primary eyes monitor the overall exercise. He observes how she focuses on human-specific patterns that the curriculum barely covers. Her accuracy rate exceeds 90% where other cadets average 60% success. Her success comes from understanding human behavior too intimately for academic study. She recognizes the difference between controlled deception and genuine relaxation. She spots the minute muscle tensions that indicate concealed weapons training. She identifies the breathing patterns of someone maintaining cover under pressure. This knowledge comes from lived experience rather than theoretical training. This excellence becomes its own form of exposure risk. Her performance stands out statistically from the Terran cadets who show more consistent but less accurate results. The commander begins questioning how a Terran student developed such nuanced understanding of human behavior. His analytical mind starts connecting anomalies he previously dismissed as insignificant. The simulation continues with increasing complexity levels. Emma must deliberately make mistakes to avoid appearing too proficient. She allows two obvious infiltrators to pass while correctly identifying the difficult cases. This balancing act requires constant calculation of what constitutes believable performance versus exceptional capability. Each decision risks either exposure through excellence or failure through excessive caution. The exercise demonstrates the fundamental challenge of deep cover operations. Maintaining perfect deception requires understanding exactly how much knowledge seems plausible for the assumed identity. Exceptional performance draws attention, while poor performance might trigger academic review. The operative must walk the narrow line between these extremes while gathering intelligence. Commander Throne's curiosity transforms into professional suspicion. He begins reviewing her previous answers and physiological readings from earlier lectures. The pattern of exceptional human insight combined with minor physiological anomalies creates questions his training cannot ignore. The simulation that should demonstrate threat assessment skills instead reveals the assessor's own blind spots being exploited. Biological adaptation technology demands flawless integration between host and machine. The nanite systems maintaining Emma's Terran disguise require constant energy and precise physiological control. Her prolonged mental strain during the simulation pushes the technology beyond tested parameters. The systems manage thousands of microscopic adjustments per second to maintain her cover identity, each correction draining her metabolic reserves. Emma's concentration wavers during a particularly intense threat assessment scenario. The simulation presents a family group where the youngest member shows subtle indicators of concealed weapons training. Her human instincts recognize the pattern immediately, while her Terran programming requires deliberate analysis. This cognitive conflict triggers a cascade of system errors across multiple subsystems. Her pheromone output spikes beyond Terran norms during the recognition moment. The nanites struggle to regulate the biochemical surge caused by adrenaline release. Air quality sensors near her station detect anomalous organic compounds inconsistent with Terran physiology. The environmental monitoring system logs the irregularity as a possible sensor, calibration issue rather than a biological anomaly. Her visual disguise flickers for exactly 0.3 seconds during a sudden movement. The holographic projection surrounding her facial structure glitches as she turns to check a sensor reading. Two nearby cadets report seeing unusual bone structure and skin pigmentation momentarily. Their training suggests equipment malfunction rather than security breach, so they dismiss the incident as projector interference. The Academy's security AI flags both anomalies for later review rather than immediate action. Its programming prioritizes obvious threats over minor system irregularities. The AI schedules a maintenance check for the holographic projectors and environmental sensors during the next cleaning cycle. This delay gives Emma precious moments to stabilize her systems before detection. She must consciously regulate her breathing to recalibrate the nanite networks. Her human stress response demands rapid, shallow breaths while the systems require steady respiratory patterns. She focuses on slowing her heart rate through mental discipline, reducing the biochemical strain on the technology. The nanites gradually return to optimal operating parameters as her physiology stabilizes. This technical near-failure demonstrates the absolute limits of biological disguise technology. Even advanced systems cannot compensate for extreme physiological stress indefinitely. The margin for error shrinks with each additional challenge the lecture presents. Every simulation exercise, every unexpected question, and every physiological anomaly strains the systems further. The incident reveals how easily perfect deception can unravel through microscopic failures. A single pheromone spike, a momentary visual glitch, or an irregular breathing pattern could expose the entire operation. The technology operates within increasingly narrow safety margins as the mission continues. Each successful moment of deception makes the next moment more difficult to maintain. Emma understands that the systems cannot withstand another incident of this magnitude. She must reduce her engagement level despite the intelligence value of active participation. Her priority shifts from gathering data to maintaining cover at all costs. This requires deliberate underperformance in subsequent exercises to minimize stress on the systems. The classroom environment becomes increasingly hazardous with each passing minute. Every sensor represents potential exposure. Every cadet a possible witness, every exercise a test of system stability. The mission balances on the edge of discovery, where the slightest misstep will confirm every suspicion about human capabilities. The technology that enabled infiltration now threatens to become the instrument of exposure. Commander Throne's third eye scans the lecture hall one final time. The session concludes in 3 minutes. Are there any questions? His tone suggests he expects the customary Turan silence. 200 students maintain perfect stillness, antennae dipped in respectful attention. Their training emphasizes accepting information without challenge. The room holds its collective breath in anticipated dismissal. Emma's hand rises against all operational protocols. The movement defies her cover identity's cultural programming and mission parameters. Her human need to correct misinformation overrides years of intelligence training. The nanites struggle to suppress the biochemical surge accompanying this decision. Her pheromone levels spike beyond Turan norms despite system interventions. Every alien eye focuses on the unexpected movement. 200 pairs of ocular organs track the raised limb with academic curiosity. Weapons hidden beneath academic robes shift imperceptibly as security instincts override classroom decorum. The commander's central eye focuses on her, while the others continue scanning the room for coordinated threats. His antenna twitches in recognition of previous anomalies now forming patterns. He nods permission with his primary eye. The Turan student may speak. His voice remains neutral, but his peripheral vision locks on her physiological readings. Sensors detect elevated heart rates and abnormal neural activity throughout the lecture hall. The security system upgrades its alert status from routine monitoring to active assessment. Emma stands slowly, controlling movements that want to be human abrupt. Her voice emerges steadier than her internal systems would predict. The nanites strain to maintain vocal modulation within Turan parameters. She consciously suppresses human speech patterns that might betray her origin. The room's acoustics amplify every syllable across the silent space. Her question hangs in the air, precise and devastating. Commander, your analysis of human empathy patterns seems incomplete. You presented our protective instincts as tactical vulnerabilities, rather than strategic advantages. Could this misinterpretation explain why your predictive models fail against human opponents? The phrasing combines Turan deference with human directness in ways that defy cultural norms. The commander's third eye closes completely in concentration. His analytical mind recognizes the question's sophistication exceeds any student's capability. The insight demonstrated requires deep understanding of both human psychology and tactical theory. His training wars with his curiosity as he processes this contradiction. This moment represents total operational compromise. Her cover identity shatters through the simple act of asking the right question. The mission transitions from covert observation to direct engagement without possibility of reversal. Every sensor in the room now focuses on the anomaly that was once a perfect disguise. Her question reframes the entire lecture's premise. It challenges the foundation of galactic threat assessment regarding human behavior. The cadets who moments ago viewed humans as unpredictable monsters now consider they might be misunderstood protectors. This cognitive shift occurs through 7 carefully chosen words delivered at immense personal risk. The commander's response will determine whether this becomes a learning opportunity or a security incident. His tactical training suggests immediate containment and interrogation. His academic curiosity recognizes unprecedented teaching material standing before him. The next seconds will define interspecies understanding for years to come. Emma maintains her position despite the crushing weight of attention. Her human resilience outweighs the Turan programming that should make her recoil from confrontation. She has voluntarily become the subject of her own observation, transforming from analyst to demonstrator. The theoretical has become unavoidably personal in the most dramatic way possible. Commander Throne begins his reply, his third eye narrowing as it processes her question. His answer starts with standard tactical doctrine about emotional variables in combat calculations. He doesn't notice the initial fluctuations in her biochemical readings. The nanite systems have been operating at critical levels since the simulation exercise. The direct confrontation of public questioning pushes them past their design limits. The failure begins at the cellular level. Protein structures revert to human configurations as the nanites lose energy coherence. The holographic projection flickers like a faulty view screen before collapsing entirely. Her Turan appearance dissolves in a cascade of light refraction, revealing human facial structure beneath. The transformation takes 1.2 seconds from initial fluctuation to complete system collapse. 200 cadets recoil in synchronized motion. The movement creates a wave effect across the lecture hall as aliens from 12 different systems react to the revealed threat. Chairs scrape against flooring as bodies shift into defensive postures. Antennae vibrate at distress frequencies while ocular organs dilate in recognition of the theoretical-made material. Weapons emerge from concealed locations throughout the room. Energy blades extend from academic robes. Particle projectors slide from sleeve compartments. 4 cadets raise integrated wrist-mounted stunners. The security training that seemed theoretical moments earlier becomes immediately practical. Targeting systems activate with soft humming sounds. Emma remains perfectly still amidst the reacting crowd. Her hands stay visible at her sides, palms open and empty. She maintains the neutral stance she held while asking her question. Her breathing remains steady despite the weapons now focused on her position. She makes no defensive movements or threatening gestures. The commander's third eye closes completely in shock. His tactical training wars with academic curiosity as he processes the transformation. He recognizes the human female from intelligence briefings as Agent Vasquez of Earth Intelligence Division. His mind rapidly reviews every interaction throughout the lecture, reassessing each anomaly through this new understanding. The cadets hold their positions, weapons aimed, but not activated. Their training emphasizes threat assessment before engagement. They note her non-threatening posture and lack of defensive preparations. The contradiction between her revealed identity and her current behavior creates cognitive dissonance. They expected immediate aggression based on the lecture's content. Security systems throughout the academy shift to highest alert status. Automated defenses track her position while containment fields power up silently. External security teams receive breach notifications with maximum priority codes. The response protocols designed for human infiltrators begin activating throughout the facility. Emma's calm demeanor contradicts every threat profile the cadets studied. She stands without tension, despite multiple weapons locked on her position. Her expression shows curiosity rather than aggression, engagement rather than hostility. This visible contradiction to their training materials creates hesitation, where instinct demanded action. The theoretical subject of their lecture has materialized before them. The graphs and statistics about human behavior now have a living reference point. The data points about threat indicators confront observable reality. Every cadet recalibrates their understanding against this immediate evidence. Commander Throne's analytical mind overrides his security instincts. He recognizes the intelligence opportunity outweighing the security breach. His hand signal cancels the engagement protocols before they execute. The weapons lower slowly as confusion replaces combat readiness. The classroom remains frozen between protocol and possibility. The reveal transforms the academic exercise into lived experience. The students who moments ago analyzed human behavior through data streams now observe it directly. Their theoretical knowledge meets practical demonstration in the most dramatic way possible. The lesson continues beyond the curriculum into uncharted territory. Silence hangs heavier than gravity in the lecture hall. The only movement comes from weapons lowering as cadets reassess the situation. Commander Throne's third eye remains completely closed, while his primary eyes track every micro-expression on the human's face. His tactical training screams for immediate containment and interrogation. His academic curiosity recognizes an unprecedented teaching moment unfolding before him. This internal conflict freezes him in place longer than protocol allows. He recognizes Agent Vasquez from classified intelligence briefings. Her file lists 7 successful deep cover operations and mastery of 4 alien languages. The Earth Intelligence Division considers her one of their most effective operatives. This context changes the situation from security breach to intelligence opportunity. His hand signal cancels the remaining weapon activations throughout the hall. The cadets slowly lower their energy blades and particle projectors. Their training emphasized threat assessment before engagement. They observe the human's non-threatening posture and lack of defensive preparations. This visible contradiction to their lecture materials creates confusion, where instinct demanded action. They hold position waiting for instructor guidance. Emma explains her mission parameters with careful honesty. She describes the observation protocol that prohibited interaction or influence. Her voice remains calm and measured despite the heightened security status. She acknowledges hearing distorted versions of human behavior without correcting them. This admission surprises the cadets who expected denial or justification. She demonstrates human facial expressions the lecture had mischaracterized. A genuine smile shows slightly crinkled eyes and asymmetrical lip curvature. A sarcastic smirk involves one raised eyebrow and minimal dental exposure. A threat display features tense jaw muscles and focused pupils. These live demonstrations contradict the simplified holographic examples from the curriculum. The commander realizes his teachings contained significant oversimplifications. His analysis focused on human capabilities without understanding their motivations. The protective instincts he classified as vulnerabilities now appear as consistent moral frameworks. The unpredictability he emphasized seems more like adaptable problem-solving when observed directly. This exposure becomes an unexpected learning opportunity for everyone present. The cadets witness human behavior firsthand rather than through filtered data streams. They observe how fear distorts understanding across species lines. The theoretical concepts from their textbooks gain nuance through direct demonstration. Fear begins its slow transformation into understanding through this interaction. The human operative stands calmly answering questions about her own species' misrepresentation. She explains how survival instincts evolved on Earth became misinterpreted as aggression elsewhere. Her patience with their suspicions demonstrates the very empathy the lecture claimed humans lacked. The security alert status downgrades from critical to observational. External response teams hold position outside the lecture hall. Internal sensors continue recording but no longer trigger automatic defenses. The situation transitions from combat readiness to diplomatic engagement through silent consensus. Commander Throne's third eye finally opens, focusing on the human with analytical curiosity rather than tactical assessment. He begins asking questions about the behavioral patterns he misunderstood. His inquiries shift from threat analysis to cultural understanding. The classroom becomes an impromptu interspecies communication workshop. The cadets gradually resume their seats, weapons properly stowed. They listen to the exchange between their instructor and the revealed operative. Their perspective on human behavior recalibrates with each clarified misunderstanding. The theoretical monsters from their textbooks become complex beings with consistent moral codes. This incident will change the Academy's human threat assessment program fundamentally. The curriculum will expand beyond tactical analysis to include cultural context and historical perspective. Future cadets will study this encounter as a case study in overcoming interspecies misunderstanding through direct engagement. The fear-based approach gives way to comprehension-based preparedness. The most dangerous human trait isn't unpredictability. It's their unwavering priority on life over procedure. They'll break every protocol to protect strangers, discard tactics to save enemies, and risk extinction for ethical principles. This consistency defies galactic logic but defines their species. This intelligence operation succeeded because everyone gained understanding. Fear transformed into recognition through direct engagement. Monsters become manageable when met face-to-face without weapons raised. The galaxy shrinks less through conquest than through conversation. Sometimes the greatest threat is simply not knowing, and the best defense is asking the right question at the right time to the right person.